Dandavat Pranams. Welcome everybody to our Ram Navami celebration and live stream today. So today is the 17th of April, Wednesday, 2024. And we're celebrating from Delhi, Ram Navami. And we'll have small kirtan. And then we'll have Ram Gatha for a couple of hours. Hare Krishna. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivaswadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Jaya Nitai, Jaya Gaur, Jaya Nitai, Jaya Gaur, Nitai, Jaya Gaur, Jaya Nitai, Jaya Gaur, Jaya Radha, Madana Mohan Radha, Madana Mohan Radhe, Radha, Madana Mohan Radha, Madana Mohan Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Oh Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Haribo, Gaura Haribo. Go Premanandi, Hari Haribo. Jai Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki Jai. Jai Shri Madan Mohan Ju ki Jai. Brishabhananandini Vajeshwari Radharani ki Jai. Nityananda Rai ki Jai. Sachinandana Gaura Hari ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasarashi Shimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasarashi Shimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasarashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasarashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Paramahamsa Mahabhagavat Srila Gorakishore Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Saptam Goswami Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki Jai. Jai Vaishnav Sabhavoma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Srila Baladevi Dibhushan Gaudi Varantaracharya ki Jai. Jai Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur ki Jai. Jai Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Traya ki Jai. Jai Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami ki Jai. Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Shri Bhata Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhata Dasa Raghunath Sat Goswami Prabhu's ki Jai. Jai Swarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Gauda Parsada ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Hardas Thakur ki Jai. Prem Sika Holsi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Brinda ki Jai. Shri Antadvip Mayapur Simantadvip Gautandvip Madhyadvip Koladvip Ritujit Janadvip Modandvip Rudvip Atmaka Navadvip Dham ki Jai. Shri Radha Gopa Gopi Go Govardhan Dwarasa Varmatmika Shri Brajamandal ki Jai. Shri Radhakun Shamakun Ganga Jamuna Devi Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi ki Jai. Shri Brinda Devi Maharani ki Jai. Shrimati Punamasi Devi Maharani ki Jai. Jai Gopishwa Mahadev ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra ki Jai. Ketra Mandal ki Jai. Sarva Vigna Vinasakari Shina Shingade Bhagavan Ki Jai, Bhakta Prabha Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai, Charidam Ki Jai, Chari Sampradaya Ki Jai, Chari Acharya Ki Jai, Akaramat Raj Shri Chaitanya Mat Ki Jai, Shri Keshav Ji Gaudiya Mat Ki Jai, Shri Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Samagata Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gauda Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Shri Ramacandra Ki Jai, Sita Devi Ki Jai, Lakshman Hanuman Dev Ki Jai. Om Agina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Taralaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Priya Surupe, Daita Surupe, Prema Surupe, Sahajibi Rupe, Nijana Rupe, Prabhueka Rupe, Tatana Rupe, Swabila Surupe, Anapita Chirim Chirat Kurana Varatino Samarapaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam, Hari Purata Sundarata Dikatam Vasadipita, Sada Hridare Kandare Sparatu Vasachinandanaha. Yam Pravajantamana Petyam Apeti Krityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putre Titam Mayatayo Taravo Binedustam Sarvabhutam Hridim Munimanatoshmi Bhaktya Vina Aparara Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadita Rangamadye Kripamayitvam Sharanam Prapana Brinde Namaste Charanarvindam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Baradram Tato Manasti Katyana Kapi Tavaivasmi Najivamit Vaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandava pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazarashishimat Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again millions and millions of times unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazarashishimat Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada, and all our illustrious Rupanuga Guru Vargya, and all the Vaishnav and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord. My Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhavevacha patitanam papnibhyo vaishnavena manmaha. So today we're in Delhi and celebrating this ancient festival of Ram Navami. My Gurudev has explained that Lord Ram didn't advent in the previous Treta Yuga, or the Yuga previous to this, but in the Kalpa previous to this Kalpa. So many millions of years ago, Lord Ram manifested. And yet, because we celebrate every year, it seems like it was just yesterday that we were celebrating this magnificent appearance of Ram. My Gurudev explains that today is the birthday, the appearance day of Ram. Today is the coronation festival day of Ram. Today is the day that Ram came back to Ayodhya. So all of these things are happening simultaneously today. So it's a glorious opportunity to glorify this remarkable avatar, this remarkable Krishna has manifested as Lord Ram, specifically to endow the earth with Maryad Purushottam. He is actually, when you come to India and live in India, you can sense the dharmic nature of this land, particularly in the rural areas. And all of this dharma has been implemented by Lord Ram completely. He has established the Maryad, the correct way and etiquette of how we should live today. So there's a very beautiful verse from the 11th canto, and we just want to hear this verse, and I'll speak the translation. So Bhakti.
यस्यामलं नृपसदः सुयशोऽधुनापि गायन्त्यगग्नमृषयो दिगिभेन्द्रपट्टं तं नाकपालवसुपालकिरीटजुष्ट पादाम्बुजं रघुपतिं शरणं प्रपद्ये.
Beautiful, thank you. This is from the ninth canto, 11th verse, 11th chapter, 21st verse. So the translation is Lord Ramchandra's spotless name and fame, which vanquish all sinful reactions, are celebrated in all directions, like the ornamental cloth of the victorious elephant that conquers all directions. Great saintly persons like Markandeya Rishi still glorify his characteristics in the assemblies of great emperors like Maharaj Yudhisthira. Similarly, all the saintly kings and all the demigods, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, worship the Lord by bowing down with their helmets. Let me offer my obeisances unto his lotus feet. So, this is a beautiful prayer that the Bhagavatam quotes in glorification of Lord Ram and his glorious contribution, more than contribution, establishing dharma, establishing Maryad on the planet. So his Leela is practically endless. Every year we hear newer and newer and newer truths about his Leela that we never appreciated previously, or never heard previously, or never registered previously. So I'm going to try to begin from early on and try to scroll through in the next couple of hours as much of the pastimes, the lila that we can fit in during that time. So I want to begin with the pastime of Shravan Kumar. Shravan Kumar was living with his blind parents, and he was collecting water from the river nearby. And at that time, Dasarath, the emperor of Ayodhya at this time, would practice his Kshatriya arts by shooting in the dark according to the sounds that he heard. This is how the Kshatriyas would test their qualities of heroism, etc. Arjuna is described as doing the same act. So Dasarath, he was hunting in the night, and he heard what he thought was the sound of a buffalo drinking, but actually it was the sound of a clay pot being filled with water. If you can imagine what a clay pot sounds like, it could sound like a buffalo drinking. So Dasarath, he with his expertise aimed his arrow and he hit that target, but that target was a young boy, Shravan Kumar, who was collecting water for his invalid parents close by. And Dasarath, to his horror, heard this human scream of pain, and he rushed to the spot. And there was nothing he could do to save the life of this young boy. But this young boy was still alive when Dasarath came to him and spoke. He said that my parents, blind parents, are just close by, quarter of a mile from here, and they're depending on me fully for their sustenance, for their water, etc. And now you've taken my life. So this is really shameful what has happened. You know, you've made a huge mistake here. So he told Dasarath where his parents were and said that with his dying wish, he requested Dasarath to please go and comfort and tell his parents what had happened so his parents wouldn't be in ignorance about his whereabouts and so on. So Dasarath, he goes to the elderly couple and they don't see him because they're blind. And they say, "Oh, is that you, Shravan? Is that you?" And then Dasarath, his heart is broken. You see, it starts off with breaking the hearts. This whole Ram Leela is about breaking hearts, just like we described in Krishna Leela. Breaking hearts, breaking hearts, breaking hearts all the way through. So when the parents get told by, they know that Dasarath is the emperor, but that doesn't make any difference. And Dasarath has to tell them what has actually happened, that he made a monstrous mistake. and his parents are absolutely shattered. But his parents, I think it is that they die on the spot, the parents, out of separation.
Yes.
Straight away, out of separation.
Right.
The parent, and as the father is leaving his body, because he's condemning Dasarath for his huge mistake, and he says that you, when you have a son, you will also, and your son leaves you, you will also leave your body at the same time. So this is a place to begin the whole Ram pastime. The Dasarath has been cursed basically to leave his body when his son leaves home or goes away. But Dasarath is not so disturbed by this because he doesn't have any sons at this point. He has 360 queens, and it seems that they're all barren, or Dasarath can't produce a child from any of them. So he goes back to his kingdom totally shattered, and he shares with his three principal queens, Kushalia, Kaikeyi, and Sumitra. These are his three principal queens. What has actually taken place? His second queen, Kaikeyi, is a beautiful pastime, just how she became his queen when Dasarath was in the kingdom of Kaikeya, the province of Kaikeya, with
Ashwapati.
Ashwapati, the king of Kaikeya. Then he was served by Kaikeyi very beautifully, and he requested the king, "You please give me your daughter in marriage." And Ashwapati, he said, "Yes, you can have her on one condition, that her son becomes the next emperor." So Dasarath, he didn't have any sons, any children. He thought, well, if she has a son, that'll be wonderful. He can certainly be the emperor. So he agreed immediately to that proposal. And then he took his daughter, Kaikeyi, away with him. And a little while later, they were engaged in a monstrous battle with demons, etc. We are talking about at the beginning of Treta Yuga, but it's described that because of Dasarath's incredible uh, purity of heart and his governance, that the whole kingdom of Ayodhya became saturated just like the mood of Satya Yuga. It was in a mood of Satya Yuga completely, the whole atmosphere. No one had any disturbance. There was no misery. There was no sorrow. Uh, there was no anomalies. There was nothing strange happening. Everything was perfectly um, uh, manifesting. And all the religious principles were being followed very nicely. So at that time, Dasarath was performing his duties of pushing back the warring barbaric armies that would sometimes creep into the kingdom. And he was having a huge battle. And at that time, he was being very much challenged. And it's described that the wheel on his chariot, now there's a couple of different stories or impressions about this, but in principle, one story is that one of the bolts in the wheel came out and was looking like the whole chariot was going to keel over. And Kaikeyi was with him. Kaikeyi is from a Kshatriya dynasty, and she had that Kshatriya quality. She's a very strong person. And she immediately, instinctively put her finger inside the bolt hole. And that saved the chariot from collapsing. And then the chariot wheel was put back together again. But then Dasarath became overwhelmed by the enemy's arrows and so on at that time. And it's described that Kaikeyi took the reins of the chariot and took him off the battlefield. So, in fact, two times she saved his life by keeping the wheel on the chariot and then taking him off the battlefield when he became so much full of arrows, etc. So when Dasarath comes back to consciousness, then he blesses her to take two boons from him. And Kaikeyi, very smart lady, obviously, she said, well, I won't take them right now. I'll save them until I actually until I have a desire for them. The name Dasarath means that he can control or drive 10 ruts, 10 chariots at the same time. He was a mighty, mighty warrior. He's coming in the Likshvaku dynasty from the sun god. This is where he's coming from Vivishwan, the sun god. So the Raghu dynasty, as it's called now. So Kaikeyi has these two boons. And then he comes back to his kingdom and they perform a wonderful yagya to have a child. And the Agni appears with the pot of sweet rice to infuse the wife with the opportunity to have a child, and comes out of the fire. And then Dasarath, he gives his wife Kushalia the pot of kheer, and then she in turn she gives half of that to Kaikeyi, and Kaikeyi in turn she gives another half of her share to Sumitra, and Kushalia also gives something to Sumitra. This is how Sumitra gets from two places. So she has twins. Sumitra has twins. She has Shatrugna and Lakshman are born from Sumitra. And of course, Lord Ram is manifesting from Kushalia. And from Kaikeyi comes Bharat. So these four personalities are manifesting here, these four incredible personalities. They're all like Ram is directly the supreme personality of Godhead himself and coming like as Vishnu, so to speak. But all the other three personalities, Lakshman, of course, is Baladev, Nityananda, Baladev. Bharat is the chakra weapon, is the Sudarshan disc, and Shatrugna is the club of Krishna. So all of these personalities are manifesting with it's Lord Vishnu, but he's manifesting with all his weapons, etc. So it's described in great detail the joy that they go through in their upbringing, their childhood years, and so on, and their schooling and everything. It's incredibly auspicious and very beautiful to read. Every time we read these different chapters, it's like a newer and newer experience of the joy and pleasure, because this whole pastime Ram Lila is fraught with many um, moods of separation, but there is also this joyous, festive aspect in between. So in the childhood years, it's very festive and beautiful. But when the boys become teenagers, about 14, 15, 16 years old, at this time, Vishwamitra, he comes to the palace of Dasarath and he requests Ram and Lakshman to accompany him to kill the demon Tarak, Tarak, Tara, Taraka, to kill the demon Taraka, who's harassing all the sages and rishis. And Dasarath is totally, adamantly not in favor of this at all. And he tells Vishwamitra, I will send my whole army. But Vishwamitra is similarly as adamant that he should have his son. And Vashishtha Rishi, who is the guru of Dasarath, he cautions Dasarath at this point that he should submit to the Rishi's, Vishwamitra's request, and allow his son to go and purify the forest of these demons. So eventually, Dasarath agrees to relinquishing his son at great, great pain to him. Dasarath is so attached to Lord Ram, as we'll see later on, but he's so he's so attached. And then Vishwamitra, he takes two of the boys. He takes Ram and Lakshman, and they go and they kill Taraka, and they kill other demons also. And at this time, Ram is bestowed many celestial weapons are given to Ram and Lakshman, and the mantras to use those weapons is bestowed upon them by Vishwam. Vishwamitra is a very powerful rishi, and this is all part of the tapestry, the pastime of the Ram Leela. So during this Leela, right at the end, when he actually has killed this demon and kill the other demons that were harassing the sages, then they get news that Sita's wedding is going to be taking place. Janak Maharaj from Matila, he sends messages that he sends messages to all the different kings and emperors in the world that they should all come and bid for his beloved daughter, Sita Devi. Sita Devi, her pastime is extraordinary. The name Sita actually means plow. And when Janak Maharaj was plowing the sacrificial field for a yajna, then this remarkable child was manifested at that time. So Janak Maharaj decides to call his child Sita, which it's actually the goddess of fortune who's manifesting in this way for the Leela. So this is Sita Devi manifesting from in the family of Janak Maharaj. And Janak Maharaj is described as an incredible personality also in his own right. So then Vishwamitra hears of this swayamvara,
Swayamvar.
swayamvar. I've trained my audience today to quote me on all the different. So in the swayamvar, to bring the sons of Dasarath into that swayamvar, and the challenge of all these great kshatriyas is to raise the bow of Shivji. It's Shivji's bow that has is in the palace of Janak Maharaj, and the Kshatriyas are called to pick this bow up and string it. It's an enormous bow. It takes like 30 or 40 men just to lift and carry this bow. So all these Kshatriyas come, including Ravana. So many different Kshatriyas come into that assembly and try and struggle with this bow to pick it up. And not only pick it up, but actually string it. And none of them can do it at all. And after 40 or 50 or 100 of these warriors have tried to do it, then Janak Maharaj says he's very unhappy that there are no real Kshatriyas in the whole assembly. And then Lakshman becomes enraged because they haven't been called forward yet. They're just sitting there as like young boys in an assembly, and they don't have any special regalia. They're not dressed like kings or anything like that. They're just young boys, basically. So Lakshman becomes inflamed by this accusation from Janak Maharaj, and he stands up in the assembly and he says, when the sons of Raghu, when the sons of Dasarath are present in an assembly, to hear an insult like there are no real Kshatriya warriors in this is so insulting for us. And then eventually Vishwamitra says, okay, Ram, you go and see if you can lift the bow and string it. And we know the pastime. It's a lengthy pastime. I'm trying to say it very quickly so we can scroll through all the different details. So Ram comes forward and he very easily picks up the bow just with one hand, just astonishes all the other Kshatriya kings who become very envious straight away. And then with the other hand, he strings the bow straight away. And then he pulls it back. And within a second, breaks the whole bow. And it's a sound like thunderclaps are going off in the sky when this bow breaks. This is a massive, ancient bow belonging to Lord Shiva. And at that time, Parshuram arrives, and he's very, very angry that who has had the audacity to break this bow. And Ram explains and pacifies his anger to some degree. And because Parshuram has an arrow in his bow, he also has a similar big bow, and he's aiming it at Ram. And he says to Ram, where after he's heard the pacifying words, he said, but now I put my arrow to my bow, where am I going to shoot it? And Ram says, you shoot it at your own anger. Because Parshuram, we know, killed 25 generations of Kshatriyas with his axe. He's a Shaktivesh avatar of Krishna. And he was still carrying that same anger that was necessary to eliminate all those Kshatriya warriors. So now Sita Devi has been won by Ram. Actually, the night before, when the two young boys were staying in the palace of Janak Maharaj, they meet Sita Devi in the park, or they see her, they spy her, and they're just, her beauty is just, she's Lakshmi Devi. She's like, we can't describe her beauty, it's beyond comparison. And Ram's beauty is also beyond. So they actually see each other, they exchange glances. So Sita Devi is hoping and praying that this young, noble, proud Kshatriya will actually win her hand, which he does. So when Sita comes to give the garland to Lord Ram, Sita is not so tall. She's average, but Ram is very tall, and he has a big crown on his head. So how can Sita put the garland around the crown like this? So Lakshman is seeing this. So Lakshman knows that every time he goes to touch the feet of his brother always bends down to pick him up. So when Sita is coming to do like this, then Lakshman steps forward and wants to just take Ram's feet for a moment, and immediately Ram bends down so Sita can throw the garland on like this. There's also another explanation that Lakshman is like Baladev. He actually, like Anantashesh, and with his toe, he pulls the earth down, and then Sita can put the garland over it like that. So there are different stories. There are two personalities. There's Valmiki and Tulsidas, who are describing these pastimes. Valmiki is like a rishi, is like a yogi, and he has been invested with the power to write voluminous explanations of the whole of the Ramayana, which is an incredible collection of pastimes. And Tulsidas, he is much more of a devotee. He's fully devoted to Lord Ram. So there's a different flavor in the two editions. These are the two authorities that we have, Valmiki and Tulsidas. So we're taking from both of these pastime descriptions. So they're slightly different in each, but doubtless they are all 100% authentic. And this is where the whole of Bharatvarsh today takes their inspiration from these two descriptions of these two personalities, Valmiki and Tulsidas. So when Sita is wedded to Ram, then Dasarath is called from Ayodhya, and he comes with all his family members, etc. And he comes with Bharat and Satrughna, and actually Bharat, Satrughna, and Lakshman, they end up by marrying the sisters of Sita Devi. So it's a very traditional Indian type of mood. The Indian nation, they love marriages, they love celebration around this. So this is a very beautiful occasion that takes place in Matila under the direction of Janak Maharaj. So everyone becomes gloriously satisfied and happy. And then Ram and Sita make their way back to Ayodhya with all their the three brothers with their brides also. And as soon as they get back, Dasarath, he sends Bharat Maharaj to his grandfather, his maternal grandfather. That's in the province of Kaikeya. That's Ashwapati, to associate with him, to offer him pranams, etc. And he goes with Satrughna. This kingdom of Kaikeya is where Afghanistan is today. That's where the kingdom is. So he goes that distance. And while they're away, because Dasarath does remember that he promised Kaikeyi's son is Bharat. Sumitra has Lakshman and Satrughna, and Kushalya has Ram. So Bharat is the son of Kaikeyi. So actually, Dasarath promised the king of Kaikeya that he would enthrone him, but he wants to enthrone Ram, of course. So he sends Bharat away with Satrughna. And then as soon as he's gone out of the kingdom, then Dasarath declares that now is the time for the coronation of Ram. Ram should be coronated now. But there's a very, very important fact that we have to all appreciate. When Ram was very young, when Ram was about 7 or 8 years old, he said, and Kaikeyi loved him more than she loved her own son, Bharat. She would love Ram. And Ram, he asks her, will you do something for me? Will you take a promise for me? And Kaikeyi says, yes, yes. And then he asks again, will you really do whatever I ask you to do? Then she says, yes, yes, yes. Then he says, right, you perform Archaman, and then you take this vow that you will do what I'm asking. So now Kaikeyi thinks, oh, this is going to be very serious. But she performs Archaman, and she listens carefully. And then Ram says, when I'm about to be coronated, Ram has come for a purpose, just like Krishna comes. Yada yada hidam rasya. He comes to kill all the demons. He's come for this purpose. How is he going to get away from his family and do this? So he's preempting this. He's telling Kaikeyi, when I get requested by my father to be coronated, you please come forward and you ask for the fulfillment of these two boons. And the first boon should be that I should be banished to the forest for 14 years. And the second boon should be that Bharat should be king. Thank you. That Bharat should be enthroned on the throne. So Kaikeyi, she completely hates this idea. I only heard this for the first time from my Gurudev. My Gurudev was a Ram Bhakta from birth. And he told us all this story. And for so many years, I had always thought Kaikeyi is the complete demon in the whole picture. Yes. But she's there for a specific purpose and reason, to fulfill Ram's desire. So Kaikeyi, under oath, she's performed Archaman. She has to agree to Ram's devastating request. So she agrees. And then Ram is about to be coronated. So Ram looks towards Kaikeyi and reminds her, what was your vow? And then Kaikeyi comes forward and she requests Dasarath to come to her palace. Dasarath comes overjoyed. Tomorrow is Ram's coronation. The whole of Ayodhya is just like celebrating beyond compare. He's married to Sita, the most glorious personality, the princess of the world, Lakshmi Devi. And everyone is really, all of Ayodhya has been decorated and so on for this wedding and the coronation, for the coronation. So then Kaikeyi, she tells Dasarath, you remember those two boons you gave me? Well, I'm requesting them now. And Dasarath said, of course. I'll give you the whole world. I'll go to Swagaloka and I'll get whatever it is that you desire. Absolutely. This is a wonderful moment in my life when my son is about to be coronated, and I will give you anything. And then Kaikeyi lands this request on Dasarath's head that you should banish Ram to the forest for 14 years and you should enthrone my son, Bharat Maharaj. And Dasarath just passes out. He can't believe he's heard this. And he doesn't actually recover from that swoon. Basically, he just stays in a debilitated condition for the whole rest of the time. And there's a servant called Mantara, and she has been in Kaikeyi's ear, and she is actually a demoness. She's like a sinful personality. But it's all part of the Leela to bring out something very special in the whole pastime that's about to transpire. But it's Mantara, this servant, maidservant, who is described as influencing Kaikeyi to take this, to give these vows. Kaikeyi can't refuse. She's a Kshatriya warrior type lady we described on the battlefield. If a Kshatriya takes a vow, on the point of death, they will never give that up. So she took that vow in front of Ram. So she has to fulfill his request. And Ram has already indicated to her that she must do like this. So, and then there's a tremendous conversation between Kaikeyi and Dasarath. And Dasarath just can't believe what's happening. And then eventually Ram comes to hear of what has actually taken place. And Ram is immediately accepts it instantly. Yes, I will go to the forest tomorrow. Immediately. But Kaushalya and Sumitra and Lakshman and Shatrughan is not there. Bharat's not there. They're in another province. They become completely, and then the word goes out to the whole of Ayodhya that Ram is going to be banished for 14 years because of Kaikeyi. She's the black demoness, in fact, of the whole thought. But actually, she's not. She's just fulfilling Ram's desire. So we should be educated in this point. There's no father will name his daughter Kaikeyi in India.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
no one will give the name Kaikeyi. Black all the way through.
Yes.
But the actual truth of it is that she's a heroine, that she's stuck by Dharma. It's this whole Leela, Ram Leela, is about Dharma all the way through. All the way through, it's pastimes supporting Maryad, supporting the strict mood of Dharma. So when these two vows are presented to the kingdom of Ayodhya, everyone is totally distraught and devastated. And immediately Ram, he calls for tree bark, takes off his kingly costume, and immediately, without a second thought, Lakshman insists that he comes with him. And then Sita Devi, she will not even think about being left behind at this point. She absolutely insists that and everyone is trying to convince her, no, you're just a tender young princess, your feet are soft like butter. How can you possibly go to the vicious forest where all the demons are there? But eventually she gets her way. So the three of them, Sita, Ram, and Lakshman, are dressed in their tree bark, and to the horror of all the citizens of Ayodhya, they're taken on their chariot by Sumatra, the chariot driver, remember? Samantra, his name, the chariot driver. Very special person. He takes them to the borders of Ayodhya's kingdom. Sumantra, I think his name is. He takes them to the border, and then they get down from the chariot, and Ram is meditating only on fulfilling the order of his father to leave the kingdom for 14 years and to honor that request of his father. And then they get down, and then they come to the river Suraya.
Saryu.
Salyu, river Salyu. And there is Guha there. Guha has all the boats to cross the river. And he comes forward. He's a great lover of Ram. And he takes Ram and Sita and Lakshman across the river. And Ram, he spends the night there in Guha's place, village, city. And the next morning, they walk on to the forest of Chitrakoot. And they camp at Chitrakoot. Meanwhile, Bharat Maharaj and Shatrughan, they see many inauspicious omens. And Bharat Maharaj becomes very disturbed. Something is happening. Because actually, practically, as soon as Ram leaves the kingdom, Dasarath leaves his body, according to the original curse by the father of Shravan Kumar. So Bharat and Shatrughan, they get on a chain of horses and they quickly race back to Ayodhya to see what is happening. And they come very happy and so on. And then Bharat, he comes into the chambers of his mother's palace rooms. And his mother says, oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful news. You're going to be installed as the king. Bharat is completely bewildered. And Shatrughan is there with Bharat. And they're hearing this news that his mother has been responsible for sending Ram to the forest. And that Bharat now should be installed as the king. And his mother, being influenced by Mantara, is completely acting as if she's very happy for Bharat to become the king. And Bharat says emphatically, I will never, ever, ever sit on the throne. of my elder brother. My elder brother is my life and soul. And what have you done? And then Satrughna, he sees Mantara and he grabs her by the hair and he's about to kill her. And he drags her around the room, but Bharat stops and said, no, Ram wouldn't be happy for this. So so many pastimes happening. So Bharat comes back and he's horrified and he proclaims at that time, I will never call you mother again. I will never look at you or acknowledge you as my mother. He completely, utterly rejects her. I don't know how Kaikeyi manages all this, handles all that. She's doing this for Ram's sake because Ram compelled her to do like this. So she is a very strong woman, in fact. She's able to tolerate these insults by her own son. And then Bharat comes into the kingdom. And by this time, Dasarath has left his body in separation from Ram. He cannot tolerate the separation. So then Vashishta Rishi, the spiritual master, he calls all the ministers and all the senior members of the Ayodhya city to a meeting. And for hours, they are proclaiming in front of Bharat his glories, because one of the vows was that Bharat should be put on the throne. So they're very dharmic people, and they do what the king has said. The king has said like this. So they're ready to follow Dharma and install Bharat on the throne. And it's described by Tulsidas for maybe 2-3 hours, they all proclaiming Bharat's glories. And Bharat, he hears all this, and at the end he stands up and he says, I care nothing for your glorification of me. I only care for the glorification of Ram. I will never accept this throne in a million years. And tomorrow I am going to the forest of Chitrakoot and I'm going to bring Ram back. And the citizens are so happy to hear that. Yes, we'll all come with you. And then the entire city of Ayodhya empties because when Ram left, there was so much separation mood. We cannot imagine when the Supreme Lord comes as Ram, what sweetness he engenders in everyone's hearts. And the whole city became so forlorn when he left in such horrendous circumstances. So the whole city is swirling in this separation. So when Bharat Maharaj proclaims 100% that he will go to the forest and bring Ram back, and he himself will take the place of Ram in the forest for 14 years, if that has to be like that. So the next day, very quickly, all the citizens, they gather their whatever they need for the journey and they begin. This is millions of people start walking out of the city, out of the kingdom of Ayodhya. And they come to the river Silayo? Sayu. They come to the river Sayu. And Guha is there. Guha has just heard the story of Ram leaving from Ram's own lotus lips. And then he sees all the clouds of dust and all the citizens coming, and they understand this is Bharat Maharaj. Perhaps Bharat is coming and he wants to go to Chitrakoot to kill Ram. Perhaps he wants to kill Ram. Perhaps they think that like he's an enemy. They don't think there's anything favorable at all. And they're thinking to burn all the boats, to not allow any of the citizens to cross the river. And then Guha, with some presence of mind, he thinks, no, I will go and sound out Bharat Maharaj to begin with and see what is his mindset. What is he thinking about? And then, of course, as soon as he comes to Bharat Maharaj, then he sees his sentiments of abject affection, complete affection for Ram. Actually, when they're leaving, Ram is walking at the back of the procession, and so many are going. The ladies are in palanquins, etc. But Bharat is so heartbroken, he can't walk quickly. And Koshalia, she comes alongside of him. She says, quickly, you also take a palanquin so we can move along, because the citizens, we have to keep moving. So Guha, when he sees the dedication of Bharat, then he very quickly takes them all across the river. And Bharat Maharaj, he wants to know, where did Sita, Ram, and Lakshman spend the night? And he circumambulates that place and he takes the dust from that place. He's so much bhakta of Ram, and he wants to hear everything that Ram spoke to Guha. He wants to hear all the pastime that whatever it was that Ram spoke, dedicated to Ram. So then all the villagers, they make their way to the Chitrakoot forest. They arrive in the Chitrakoot forest, and it's described by Tulsidas that there are many tribal people, native people in the forest, and they make accommodation in the forest, beautiful huts and everything for all these millions of people coming out of Ayodhya. Then they feed them fruits and vegetables from the forest and so on, and look after them very nicely, take care of all their needs and so on. So they comforted. And then an assembly is called. Ram is trying to petition, Bharat is trying to petition Ram to come back to the kingdom. And Ram is saying no. So then they call Janak Maharaj, who's also a great, what do you call it, Pandit of the truth. Vashishta Rishi is there also with them, the spiritual master. So they call from Matila for Janak Maharaj to come also. He comes on a chariot very quickly. So then they convene a large assembly of all the pundits and all the ministers and the saintly persons in that assembly. And then Bharat declares that he wants Ram to come back. And he declares so piteously, it's described that practically all the trees shed their leaves in pity and sympathy for Ram, for Bharat Maharaj's desire for Ram to come back to the kingdom. And then after he's spoken, there's Janak Maharaj says, well, there can be practically no doubt, because he's the presiding president of that meeting. And he says there can be no doubt that you've won the hearts of everyone and Ram must go back to the kingdom. But Ram should say something also. And then Ram stands and says, you're saying all these eloquent words of glorification and affection towards me, but you haven't considered, what do I want? What is my desire? And my Gurudev, when he tells this story, he explains that this is we can apply the verse, Anyabilasita Shunyam. We can apply pure bhakti to this, because Bharat is bringing in this mood of what is actually devotion. Devotion means to think about the other person, not think about our desires. So when he says this straight away, it's described, my Gurudev describes, that Bharat feels like he's had a slap on the face. And he suddenly realizes he hasn't been considering Ram's desires. He's just been considering his own desires. And then when he starts to understand, like, this is the desire of Ram to fulfill the order of his father, his dying order of his father, he's compelled to remain in the forest. So then Bharat begins to agree that actually Ram must go into the forest like this. So Ram, he arranges now, because now he's escaped from the city of Ayodhya and he has a duty to perform. He wants to actually kill all the Rakshasas. He knows that that's actually his dharmic duty. That's why he's come to the planet. So then Bharat Maharaj, he tragically goes back to Ayodhya. But Bharat doesn't go into the city of Ayodhya. He stays in a hut outside of Ayodhya. And he requests the shoes, the sandals of Ram before he leaves. And he carries those sandals on his head. And for the next 14 years, he's carrying the sandals on his head. They install the sandals in this hut. And every decision that has to be made is made according to the mood of the sandals transmit into the heart of Bharat. And the ministers, they all come to the hut. And Bharat, he's sleeping on the floor in sympathy with Ram sleeping on the forest floor. And Shatrugna is doing the same. They are dedicated to Ram's welfare. So they're completely, and all the wives of Lakshman, who of course didn't go with him. What's the wife's name?
Urmila.
Urmila, yes, Urmila, you got it, yeah. Urmila, yeah. So Urmila, she also sleeps on the floor in sympathy with Lakshman. And they all do like this. They give up their finery. They give up their palace ornaments and all the, what do you call, opulences of the palace life. And they also follow like Bharat. But Bharat, he performs severe austerity. And he just takes roots and fruits, the same as Ram is taking in the forest. He won't take anything else. So Ram now is liberated from the city of Ayodhya. And then he decides to leave Chitrakoot because he knows that too many people knew he was there and they'll come to him. So then he goes, he knows that the rishis in Dandakaranya are being oppressed by many demons. So he goes to Dandakaranya forest. And in Dandakaranya forest, when he first arrives, they Lakshman makes a hut for them to stay in, etc. But then these two principal demons of this Dandakaranya, there are thousands and thousands of Rakshasa demons in that forest, harassing the sages and rishis. And then these two demons, Kar and Dushar, Dushan, yes, they're the brothers of Ravana, and they attack Ram. I'm just making it short here. They attack Ram, and they have hundreds of thousands of Rakshasa warriors. And Ram, he instructs, they see the dust of all these armies coming towards Ram because they've heard of Ram, and they are afraid of him, and they actually want to kill him. They know he's a very powerful personality. So they're Rakshasas and they want to kill him. And Ram can see them coming. And he orders Lakshman to take Sita to a cave, and he will deal with them all himself. And Lakshman is guarding Sita in a cave. And here, this is completely, this is as Aishwarya as you can get. Ram himself, he defeats all of these demons with his single bow, all of them, Kar and Dushan. And it's described that he's spinning like a wheel, and his arrows are, because he has all these celestial weapons gifted by Vishwamitra. So he has all the weapons. So he annihilates these two demon hordes. These are the principal demon hordes. And then there are many other demons amongst to keep the Leela alive all the way through. But after these two brothers have been killed, then Ram, he leaves Dandakaranya. He stays there for about a year or so, longer, because they stay, yes, they're 14 years away. So perhaps they stay longer in Dandakaranya, probably stay 10 years in Dandakaranya. There's a sequence. So I think perhaps they stay 10 years in Dandakaranya. And then the demons come in the meantime and they kill many demons. And then they decide to go to Panchavati forest. Panchavati forest. And they build this is a very, very beautiful, picturesque forest. And they live in this forest. And this is where Suparnak comes. Suparnak comes because Suparnaka comes, and she has heard about Ram. But when she sees his beauty and his prowess and his noble bearing, she immediately falls in love with him, wants to marry him. She's a Rakshasa. Rakshasi. And she wants to marry him. So she comes close to Ram and begins to try to, she's made herself look very beautiful and tries to attract Ram and says, why don't you be my husband? And Ram says, but I have my wife here. My wife is here in front of you. And then she says, but my brother, he doesn't have a wife here. So why don't you go for him? So then she tries to petition Lakshman to become a husband. And Lakshman says, no, your Ram is cheating you. Do you want to be the maidservant of the king? Or do you want to actually be the king's wife? You should go and try for Ram. And then she comes back. She's been thrown between these two personalities. And finally she realizes Sita is the problem. So she goes and she actually wants to harm Sita Devi. And then Ram indicates to Lakshman, and immediately Lakshman, he knows what he should do. He cuts off her ears. Nose. Just her nose. Just her nose with a razor sharp sword, just cuts off her nose, completely disfigures her. So she screams in horror and then resumes her Rakshasi form. And she curses and screams at Lakshman and Ram, especially Sita. She has envy for, great envy. And then she races to Lanka, where Ravana is there, in Lanka, the king of the demons. Ravana is so powerful. Ravana is the second incarnation of Jai and Vijay. So this is the second incarnation. We have Hiranyakashipu first, and then we have Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, and then we have Ravan and Kumbhakan, his brother. So these are two massive demons residing in the island of Sri Lanka. And there's a whole pastime about Sri Lanka. It's actually like an island of gold, practically. And Ravan, he has a tunnel under the ocean connecting to Brazil and pulling so much gold from there. So these are what demons do. So incredibly opulent. And he's fought so many personalities. But he was defeated by Bali. Bali is the brother of Sugriva, which we'll hear about in a minute. And Bali was also very powerful. Bali had the benediction that anyone who came in front of him, he would automatically take half of their strength. So nobody could fight him because they would have half of his strength, half of their strength. So Ravana one time was sporting with his ladies in the river, and Bali was downstream performing his regular oblations, etc. And then Ravana had actually blocked off the whole river's flow. So Bali became disturbed by that and came and found Ravana. And they began to have heated exchange. And then Ravana tried to attack Bali. And Bali grabbed Ravana and put him under his armpit, and then continued with his worship of the globe, because he would have the power to actually run all around the whole planet in worship of the planet. And he had Ravana under his armpit. So Ravana had been defeated by the brother of Sugriva already, but still Ravana was immense. Ravana had conquered so many. Indra, his son Indrajit, had conquered Indradev himself. So incredibly powerful, having all these celestial weapons also. This is in another age. It's not in, like a Kali Yuga age. This is in an age where people had all these kind of potencies. So then Suparnaka, she runs to Lanka, hideously deformed now, screaming in front of Ravana. This man Ram, he's killed your two glorious brothers, your so wonderful brothers who are guarding the forest of Dandakaranya. He's killed them. And look what he's done to me for no reason. He's just chopped my. This man is envious. He needs to be eliminated. And he has this beautiful woman with him. You should be interested in who. And this is the first time Ravana is hearing about Sita Devi, and he becomes attracted straight away, because the way Suparnaka, she speaks about her, is Ravan becomes enticed, attracted to what he hears, the description of Sita. So then Ravan decides to kidnap Sita. He decides, yes, this Sita should be with me, and I should revenge, and I should kill these two brothers. So everyone is advising him not to. Mandodari, his wife, is a good wife, and she tries to discourage him from the very beginning. Don't try to abduct Sita Devi. Ram is a very special soul. Don't try to abduct him. But Ravan, he doesn't listen to any good advice the whole time. And he makes a plan with Marichi. And Marichi is really not into it at all. Marichi also knows the power of Ram. And he tells Ravan, no, I won't do it. And then Ravan has the power to control Marichi and says, if you don't do it, I'm going to destroy you. So Marichi is bribed, is coerced into actually doing this plan that Ravan comes up with, that Marichi should disguise himself as a very beautiful deer. He knows that this is going to attract Sita Devi if she sees this beautiful deer. So the three of them are in Panchavati, and they're very, very peacefully situated. And suddenly this beautiful, incredible, heavenly deer starts prancing around in front of the ashram. And straight away, Sita Devi, she becomes, soft-hearted lady, becomes attracted to it. And straight away Lakshman said, this must be a demon. Take heed, don't be running after this. Don't, because Sita Devi is requesting Ram to go and capture the deer. And if he can't capture the deer, then kill the deer and we'll make a seat out of the skin, because it's just so extraordinary. So Ram is hesitant. Lakshman is adamant that this is a demon, you should not go. And then, this is a very poignant part of the whole pastime actually. Then Ram, he goes chasing after the deer. And the deer, of course, by Marichi, he's one of the sons of Lord Brahma. He can form all kinds of magical tricks and so on. And he's just leading Ram away from the ashram so that Ravan can come in and kidnap Sita Devi. And Ram, he's following the deer through. And then at one point, Ram, he can't capture it, so he kills the deer. And with the dying voice of Marichi, he imitates Ram's voice. Lakshman, 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 quickly, 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 come, come. And Sita and Lakshman, they hear this loud cry for assistance. And Lakshman immediately mistrusts it. Why should my brother, who has just killed Ka and Dushan, and all these other Rakshasas be intimidated by one demon? But Sita Devi, now she turns on Lakshman. For this whole period of their exile, hasn't looked beyond the lotus feet of Sita Devi, not once. He looked at her face, never. He just looks at her feet, and he doesn't sleep the whole time that they're away. He takes no rest in guarding Sita and Ram. He's so dedicated. But at this point, for the Leela, Sita Devi is inspired to really chastise Lakshman. Says, you're hearing the cry of my husband, but actually you want me to be your wife. That's why you're not running out to the forest to protect him, because you want him to be out of the way so you can take me. Lakshman is cut to the quick. Imagine. After all this austerity he's performed for her welfare, never even looked beyond her feet. And she's speaking to him in this way. So this is all for the Leela. Yogamaya, we can say, is arranging it like this. But this is a very sad part, because then Lakshman is forced by her harsh cutting words, which are more sharp than razors, cutting into him, and forced to go and see what is happening in the forest. But first of all, he puts a circle around the cottage to protect that no one can actually come into the cottage, a mystical circle. And then he goes out, running out to find Ram. And when he runs out, he finds, after some time, he finds Ram is running back. What are you doing, Lakshman? Why have you come? Why have you left Sita? Then together they suddenly realize, oh my God, we've left Sita alone. And meanwhile, Ravana has come. And Ravana comes disguised as a mendicant. And Sita Devi, of course, wants to give alms to the mendicant. Straight away, she makes a basket of fruits, but she can't come outside the circle. And Ravan can't come in to collect them. So Ravan is saying, well, what is this? You have to come outside the circle to give me the fruits, because Sita Devi has the power to break the circle. She can come out of the circle. So Ravan, he entices her out with his dress of a sadhu, and Sita comes out with, and immediately Ravan, he grabs her and puts her in his vimana and starts to head off towards Lanka. And meanwhile, Ram and Lakshman, they return and they find the basket of fruits all thrown, and they can see of the scuffle there, and Sita has been kidnapped. But prior to this, it's described that Ram knows that Sita is going to go to be kidnapped by Ravan, and she becomes replaced by a Mayic form. It's not real Sita that goes to Lanka. It's a Mayic form that's taken by Agni Dev. Agni Dev, the fire god, he takes the real Sita, and a Mayic Sita is manifested for this, because how can Ravan touch Sri Lakshmi Devi? He can't. So it's a Mayic form actually that is taken at this time. So when Ravan is taking away, the faithful bird, crow, Jatayu, comes and tries to smash. He does. He smashes the Vimana with his wings and his sharp talons. And the Vimana crashes to the ground, but still Ravan, by his mystic potency, is holding on to Sita. And Ravan is, Jatayu is attacking Ravan. And Ravan is able to take his sword out and he cuts the wings of Ravan. It's a big battle. It's a whole chapter. And Jatayu falls to the ground dying. And this is the first personality that Ram and Lakshman meet when they're rushing through the forest searching for Sita Devi. They meet the dying Jatayu and they bless him with their presence, etc. And Jatayu tells Ravan is the one who's kidnapped Sita Devi. And so now they actually understand what has happened. So then, I'm telling all this pastime principally for many Western devotees who might not be so familiar with. I know you're so familiar, you're ahead of me all the time. But actually, there's lots of people who haven't read sufficiently the Ram Leela. So Jatayu leaves body, and Ram and Lakshman, they perform the funeral rites for that very magnanimous bird. And then Ram and Lakshman, they begin searching for Ravan. They don't know where Ravan is at the moment. They're searching for Ravan. And then they travel through the, from Panchavati into the Dandakaranya forest again, and they're traveling all the way through towards South India. And they come to the province of Kishkinda. And there, Sugriv is hiding in this one mountain out of fear of his brother, because his brother is beating him all that. His brother Bali, that we've already spoken about, takes the wife of Sugriva. Tara, her name is, I think, or Rumi, the wife of Sugriva, his first wife. I think her name is Rumi or Ramba. And he takes his wife and he beats him up. Tara. He takes his wife Tara, who's a very powerful personality, and beats him and warns him, because he has this blessing that he takes half of the strength of anyone who comes to attack him. So how can Sugriva ever? They're like twin brothers, Sugriva and Bali. They're like twin brothers. So Bali has stolen the wife of Sugriva, and he's hiding in this Kishkinda mountain, because a great sage there said, if Bali actually ever steps foot on this mountain, he will die straight away. I think that's the story there. You remember that story? But they have sanctuary on this mountain. That's Hanuman and Sugriva from the wrath of Bali. Bali can't come into this mountain. So then one day, Sugriva and Hanuman, they see from a distance these two Kshatriya warriors coming through. And immediately they think, oh, Bali has sent them to kill us. And they become afraid. But then Hanuman, he hesitates. He says, no, first I should go and sound them out and see who they are. Hanuman, we should understand, is Lord Shivji. Hanuman has a huge, huge, huge role in the whole of the pastime of Ram. And so Hanuman comes disguised like a Brahmana, because they're monkeys. All these monkeys, the Varnas, they've all been instructed by Vishnu originally when they went to the shore of the ocean of milk, requesting Vishnu to come and relieve the earth of all the demons. Then they requested, you tell all the devas to manifest as monkeys to support Ram's Leela. So all these Varnas, they're all previously great personalities from the heavenly planet, all of them. So all of these personalities have great qualities and great characters. So Hanuman in particular, he's the greatest of all. He's Shivji himself manifested to take part in Ram's Leela. So he comes in front of Ram, and as soon as he sees Ram, he recognizes his noble qualities, and he speaks very beautiful. Hanuman is so educated. Hanuman is so fluent in all languages and etiquette and how to behave, and he speaks so beautifully. Ram and Lakshman are completely melted by his personality. And at this point, Ram comments that what is the story of the moonstone necklace that Ram wears that no one else can see except a great avatar. Hanuman is wearing a special, like, mystical necklace, and no one can recognize it except a great, great, great personality. So Ram comments to him in the first exchange that they have with him, with Hanuman, "Oh, this beautiful necklace that you're wearing on your neck." And Hanuman immediately realizes, "Oh, this must be my Lord, my eternal Lord." And then he immediately surrenders to Ram and acknowledges that this is the supreme personality of Godhead. Hanuman realizes this from this exchange, this first exchange. Then he returns to Sugriva and tells them how glorious are these two. And then Sugriva invites them into this sanctuary of the Kishkinda mountain. And then Sugriva begins to lament. Well, first of all, they hear Ram's story that Sita has been kidnapped. But then Sugriva tells about his wife has been kidnapped also, or hijacked by Bali Maharaj, his brother. So then Ram decides, all right, I will relieve you of your, I will kill your brother. And then in exchange, Sugriva decides, if you can return my wife, then who is his wife?
Ruma. Somewhere it's written Ruma.
Ruma, that's
And
what I said. Yeah,
somewhere
Ruma, yeah. Ruma. And Tara. Yeah. So Ram wants to help Sugriva now, because he wants Sugriva tells him that he will be able to find Sita Devi for him. Ram doesn't know where Sita Devi is. He doesn't know that she's in Lanka. So I think the time has expanded. It's allowing us more time somehow. Anyway, so first of all, Ram says, you go and demand a battle with Bali, and I will hide behind a bush, and I can't come in front of Bali and kill him because he'll take half my strength. So I have to do it deceitfully. I have to do it behind a bush and kill him in a cowardly way. But Ram is prepared to do that to get back his Sita Devi, because only Sugriva, he realizes, can actually help him, because Sugriva has at his command millions of monkeys, and they can spread all over Bharatvash, and they can search for Sita. And he has all the bears also, Jambavan. So Sugriva goes to the palace of Bali and calls out loudly, Bali, you come out and we'll fight together. And Bali, in an intoxicated state practically, he comes out of his palace roaring, and he immediately starts fighting and beating Sugriva to a pulp. He's just smashing him and Sugriva can't fight back because he doesn't have the strength to. And Ram is behind a tree waiting, but both the brothers look exactly the same. They're identical. Ram doesn't know who he should kill and who should not kill. So Sugriva gets beaten to a pulp and really disheartened, and eventually runs away and chastises Ram. You said you were going to kill him and you didn't, and I got so smashed and thrashed, you know. And Ram says, because I couldn't recognize who was who. You're both identical. So then Ram says, I'll give you a garland that will stay on your chest, and then I'll know who's who. Now you have to go and do it again. Sugriva is really reluctant to actually go again to take another thrashing, because he's not confident Ram is going to come through. Because understand, the Devas even today, they don't have full confidence in the supreme controller, like we described the pastime of Kaliya. They don't have full confidence that Krishna is Krishna, that he can do anything. So Sugriva is a little bit shy. But still, on the order of Ram, he goes, because he has no choice, goes to the palace and again calls out Bali. Again, Bali comes out and begins to thrash him. But this time, Sugriva has a garland on. So Ram knows who to kill. And he kills Bali from behind a bush with a very powerful arrow. And it killed. Bali has tremendous boons from the demigods. I can't remember all the pastime about Bali, but there's many boons that have been benedicted to him. And by the Devas, very powerful, powerful personality. And so then Bali leaves his body, and all Bali's wives come lamenting and accusing Ram of killing him behind a tree. What a deceitful way to kill such a powerful personality. And even later on in Krishna Lila, the gopis, they accuse Krishna of killing Bali, in a very treacherous type of a way. And so all the because they love Bali, but Bali has taken Sugriva's wife, which was adharmic. And this is what Ram, because Bali says, why did you kill me like this? And he says, because you have performed such a sinful, heinous act of taking your brother's wife while your brother is alive and healthy. You've taken it. This is completely opposed to Dharma. All of Ram's acts, all of what is taking place on every page, every second page, is a lesson about Dharma, 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 all the way through. Just like in the heavenly planets, they cannot do anything else except follow the path of Dharma. Surya Dev, Agni, Vayu, any of the demigods, they all have to implicitly follow the path of Dharma. That's in their nature. And that's what we have seen, that's what we witness in India itself, in Bharatvash, that mood of following Dharma, which was infused by Lord Ram. He infused the same high respect for Dharma. So that remnant is still definitely there in India, even though it's been compromised. But after Bali has been killed and all his wives have lamented and they perform the funeral rites and so on, then Ram requests Sugriva. He says, now you have to help me, but you don't help me for the rainy season is upon us now. We have 4 months of the rainy season. So we can't actually hunt through all Bharatvash. You have to, we'll wait until after the rainy season. And then Sugriva invites him into the palace of Bali Maharaj, which is very opulent. And Ram says, no, never. My father has instructed me to stay in the forest for 14 years. I will not place one foot inside a palace or a city or any. I will just stay outside. So this is another example of Dharma Maryad. All the way through, it's carrying the weight of Maryad, all his pastime. So then Ram and Lakshman, they go to a cave in this Kishkinda mountain, and they stay in a cave for the 4 months of the rainy season. And then when the rainy season's finished, Sugriva, it doesn't seem, is rushing out to help them. And Ram becomes really angry at this point. He says, these 4 months have been the longest months of my life. I'm in separation mood from Sita so deeply, my wife, Sita. And why is not Sugriva coming out straight away? He becomes really angry. And then he sends Lakshman to the palace of Sugriva to tell him to come out of his drunken stupor. And he should come and immediately send his army out. But meanwhile, Hanuman has counseled Sugriva to immediately call and Sugriva, even though he's drunk and he's consorting with all his wives and so on, because he's a monkey. He's in a monkey body. So this is what monkeys do. They enjoy the sense gratification of their wives, etc. So, but Hanuman, he instructs him that Ram is waiting. So at that time, Sugriva, he sends out all his messengers to call all the monkeys here. But Ram doesn't know this. And Lakshman comes, he sends Lakshman to the palace of Bali, of Sugriva now, and he comes in an absolute rage. Lakshman is so angry, and he's invited into the palace. And meanwhile, Tara comes out to try and pacify him, but he's not pacified. And he comes in front of Sugriva. Only when he hears that Sugriva has already sent out messengers to call all the monkey warriors, then he becomes somewhat pacified. So very briefly, they collect millions of monkeys, and Sugriva, he orders them to go in 4 different directions all over Bharatvash, all over India, and search for Ravan. Where is his kingdom, his domain? And he tells them all to come back. What is it, after 3 months, I think, or 4 months? They should all report back. There's a stipulated time by Valmiki gives. And so they all report back except Hanuman's group. Hanuman and the son of Bali, who is Angada. That is the son of Bali. And is a very great hero also, Angada. And Angada and Hanuman and Jambavan, they all reach the bottom of India. What's that called? Korma? What's the place called? At the very bottom of India?
Kanyakumari.
Yes. Say it loudly.
Kanyakumari.
Kanyakumari.
Yeah.
Yes, Kanyakumari. At the bottom of India, they reach. And they are on the beach there looking at the ocean. And then the brother of Jatayu, he hears them over talking about the different pastimes of Ram. And amongst those pastimes is when Jatayu was trying to rescue Sita. And this is, the brother is called what's his name? Sampati. Sampati. The brother is called, and he's a very old, they're not crows actually, they're like eagles.
Yeah,
Eagles. And he hears them talking about the death of his younger brother, and he becomes very, very unhappy. And he comes down and he says, I hear you talking about your time. And he hears the whole pastime of Ram searching for Sita. And he says, oh, Sita is across the ocean. I saw Ravan flying across the ocean carrying her. Just a few. Oh, that's another thing that I missed out, that detail of when Sita Devi, she's being carried by Ravan, she puts some of her jewels in a cloth and she drops them down, and the monkeys, they find them.
Yes.
So when the monkeys show that to Ram, that convinces the monkeys that they have to serve Ram to find Sita Devi. So that was a detail that needs to be actually there. So then Sampati, he tells them, where is Sita? She's across the river, across the ocean. It's 800 miles across the ocean. And for some reason, they don't have boats that can cross the ocean. For the Leela, they don't have boats. So they're all thinking how to cross over. And then I think it's Jambavan. No, first of all, the monkeys start to think, they start to explain that they can jump, because they want to find Sita Devi first. Because previously, Ram has given a ring of his to Hanuman to carry in case they find Sita Devi, to show the ring, to assure Sita Devi, if they find her, that they've definitely come from Ram, because it's a ring that Sita gave to Ram. No one else knows this ring except Sita and Ram. Very special. So Hanuman has that. He has that. Actually, it's described, he doesn't know where to put it on his cloth, so he keeps it in his hand, this ring. So then they're all trying to figure out how to jump across this ocean. And they say, I can jump 600 miles, or I can jump 7. None of them can jump. And then Jambavan, who's a very old bear, he says, actually, you, Hanuman, you can do it. Hanuman doesn't know his glories yet. Hanuman's glories are immense, but he doesn't know them all, because he's had a special curse from Indradev, I think that was the curse. First of all, he tried when he was a child to eat the sun. He thought the sun was a fruit. He was told it was a fruit. And Indradev punches him in the mouth. And then, Vayudev, who's the father of Hanuman, takes Hanuman into a cave and to console him, and is very unhappy. And then all of a sudden, there's no air anywhere in Swaga or in the Earth planet, because Vayudev has decided just to not do his duty. And at that time, all the devas, they all come to offer respects to Vayudev, and to please forgive them for actually forgive Indra, for punching his face, and they restore the child Hanuman back to health. But at that time, they give him so many mystical opulences, but they say you will never be able to realize these. You'll become too strong. You won't realize these opulences until in the service of Ram directly. You won't have the power to remember that. So Jambavan, he knows that, and he reminds Hanuman of that at this point. So when Hanuman starts to reflect upon his greatness, then he says, yes, I will jump. Then he comes to the top of that Kanyakumara. There's a mountain there, and he has to stand on a rock, and he expands himself, his body, to become so big and monstrous. And the pressure of from his jump is going to really push the mountain down. So he jumps, he springs across the ocean. And on the way, he meets a demon. What do you remember the name? The demon? He meets a demon who is challenged to eat him. I can't remember the demon's name. And she's a goddess demoness. And Hanuman, he says, yes, I will surely enter your mouth. He becomes very, very small at that time. He comes into her mouth, and then he quickly goes out again like a fly. So the demoness becomes satisfied with that. Sursa, yeah. Many demons. We're trying to capsulate it just within a couple of hours, the whole Ram Leela. But the principal mood of the Ram Leela can only come out when it's actually told really over a long... My Gurudev used to speak this Ram Leela for 3 days in a row and elaborate on many of the individual pastimes through there. So finally, Hanuman comes to Lanka, and it's been prophesied. There's a Devi there who's guarding the gate at Lanka, and she knows the prophecy. The prophecy is when a monkey tries to enter Lanka. This is going to be the death knell for the whole of the citizens or the Rakshasas of Lanka. And this demigoddess, this Devi, Hanuman has become very, very small, and nobody can really see him, but this Devi can see him, and she challenges him, and she tries to capture him, but Hanuman, he punches her back in the face very hard, and she's never been hit in the face before. She's shocked, and then she realizes this is a monkey, and this is the death knell of all of Lanka. So she becomes very fearful, and then Hanuman, he jumps around her and gets into Lanka, and now he's searching for Sita Devi, and he's searching everywhere. He goes in all the chambers of Ravana, sees all these half-naked ladies and so on. He's walking. Hanuman is a brahmachari, and he's very embarrassed to walk through all the chambers of the Ravana, and he's looking for Sita Devi. He's never seen Sita Devi before, but he's heard a description from Ram. So he's searching everywhere for Sita Devi, and then he finally comes in to the Ashok Grove, it's called. And in the Ashok Grove, he sees this incredibly beautiful... He knows immediately this is Sita Devi. She's sitting under this Ashok tree, and she's just lamenting and lamenting and lamenting. And all around her are these Rakshasis who are taunting her. You know, why won't she submit to their lord Ravan's request to come and remain in the palace with him and enjoy the opulences of Lanka? And she doesn't for a single solitary second waver in her affection and attraction for Ram. So Hanuman, he sees Sita Devi, and he becomes very, very small, and he hides in the tree. And he's listening to all the Rakshasis trying to torment Sita Devi. And then Sita Devi, and then finally the Rakshasis, they go away. And actually, and also there's another, how Ravan, he comes at that time and taunts her. And Hanuman, he's witnessing how Ravana is taunting Sita Devi. And he becomes very angry that why is this Rakshasa taunting Sita Devi, so delicate princess like this? And then they all leave. And then Hanuman, he doesn't know, he knows that Sita Devi is going to be terrified if he suddenly presents his monkey form, or she'll think that he's, you know, because the demons are full of mystic potencies. They can imitate so many people. We hear later in the battle of this. And then Hanuman, he very quietly in a beautiful melodious voice begins to chant the glories of Ram and Sita and how they went through the forest and Ravan kidnapped her. And he starts to tell the whole pastime from the tree. You know, and Sita Devi, she's amazed. She's listening to this beautiful recital of the Ramayana. And then her faith starts to build in this person. And then Hanuman, he jumps down, but he's very small. And he hands Sita, he says he's an emissary come from Ram. And he hands Ram's ring to Sita. Then Sita knows, yes, this is not a fake. This is not a demon. This is a real personality. And then Hanuman begins to speak to Sita. You can just get on my back and I'll take you to Ram straight away. And Sita says, never. She says, my Ram has to come and defeat these demons first. He's quite capable of doing like this. So then Sita Devi, what does she do then? Then Hanuman, he speaks with Sita Devi very nicely. And Sita Devi, she gives him another ring, a bangle, a bangle for Hanuman to take back to Ram and let him know that he's actually seen the real Sita. But we know that this is a Maya Sita already. Yeah. But then Hanuman, he decides, because he's a monkey and he's a bit hungry, so he decides to start taking some fruits. And then he starts breaking all the trees in the orchard. And then the guards, they run to Ravan and tell, some monkey is in the grove. And Ravan immediately sends a whole consort of soldiers to capture and kill the monkey. And Hanuman, just in a flick with his tail, kills them all. And then Ravan, he sits up. Who is this monkey? Then he sends so many of his soldiers to capture and kill Hanuman. None of them can. Hanuman is wiping out garrisons of soldiers. So many of them. He's just killing, because now he can become so big, and he just tramples on them. And then in the very end, I think it's Indrajit who captures him with this Pashanaga, this special rope that, like a Brahmastra. He captures Hanuman. Hanuman actually is not really affected by this rope, but he pretends to be. He pretends to be bound up by it. And then, because he wants to see Ravan, he wants to speak to him, he wants to have a word with him. So Indrajit and the soldiers, they carry him into the palace of Ravan. And Hanuman is saying that he's come from Ram, and Ravan should immediately return Sita to Ram. And he's saying it all very, very confidently. He's not afraid at all. And Ram is shocked by the boldness and confidence of this monkey. Meanwhile, this monkey, he's swirled his tail around, so he comes up to the same level as Ravan, and he's speaking directly to him. And then Ravan becomes very incensed and angry because Hanuman is direct with him and calling him a fool and everything. And then Hanuman says that Ram should return the Sita. Sita and Ravana is absolutely adamant that he's not going to. And then Ravan's father, I've forgotten the name of Ravan's father, old man, is sitting there. And he's advising Ravan to give, or it's one of the older ministers advising his son to give Sita back. And then Vibhishan, the brother of Ram, he also advises, and Ram becomes very, very angry at Vibhishan and says, you're a traitor in the house. Why are you saying like that? But Vibhishan, he doesn't care. He loves his brother, and he's trying to do in the best interest of his brother. But his brother's not listening at all. And then Ravan says, I should kill this monkey. And then straight away his minister says, no, it's against Dharma to kill the monkey. You shouldn't do like that. And then Ravan says, all right, set fire to his tail. So they bind his tail with cloths soaked in oil, and then they set fire to it. And it's described that Agni Devi comes and actually makes it very cool for Hanuman. Hanuman's not feeling anything because Agni Devi is protecting him from the heat. And then Hanuman expands his body enormously and starts leaping around in Lanka, setting fire to all the houses except the palace of Vibhishan. Vibhishan, he doesn't go to that house because he's heard Vibhishan talking to his family members about the glories of Ram. Vibhishan is already knowing the glories of Ram. Vibhishan is not a sold out demon like everybody else. So then this is the famous pastime of Hanuman completely setting fire to Lanka. And Lanka just becomes incinerated practically. And Ravan is trying to capture this monkey, and they can't because he's just bounding like a monkey. He's free. And then finally, um, Hanuman, he dives into the ocean, and then he comes to a rock, and then again he jumps back to Kanyakumar. He comes back there, and then he's brought the ring of Sita. Then all the monkeys are so happy, and they together they go back to Kishkinda, where Ram is waiting for them all to. All the other missions, the three groups that went looking, they've all returned, and they're all wondering where is this fourth group. So when this fourth group arrive back, they're so happy, and then they lead Ram to Kanyakumar. And Ram now is with the whole monkey army facing Lanka, but it's still got 800 kilometers, 800 miles of ocean between them. That's a long way. So they're wondering how to cross. And then Ram, he sits down. First of all, they make a Shiva lingam, and Ram is glorifying Shivji. And then all the local people are saying, oh, Ram is submissive to Shivji. And the monkeys, they say, no, no, Shiv and Ram are the same. And then the Shiva lingam breaks, and Shivji himself manifests and says, no, Ram is my worshipable deity. So establishes the principle.
The Rameshwaram.
Rameshwaram, yes, this is Rameshwaram, yes, yes. So then Ram's supremacy is established, and then he sits down to meditate for 3 days. What will he do about crossing the ocean, how to cross the ocean, how to Varunadev. He wants to call Varunadev. So he's meditating for 3 days. Varunadev doesn't come. So he becomes very angry. And he raises his arrow. And just at the raising of his arrow, tumultuous waves start going in the ocean, and all the aquatics become really, really disturbed. Everything becomes like a tsunami has gone on in the ocean, a volcano, something in the ocean. And straight away, there's an aerial voice from Varunadev saying that you can cross this ocean by, I will empower these stones to float. If you inscribe the name of Ram on each stone, then it will float. Then you can you can build a bridge to Lanka. So Ram, and what an amazing pastime. It's almost like as amazing as when Krishna's dancing on the hoods of Kaliya. I mean, it's just amazing pastime. Only Krishna can manifest these sorts of leelas, to inspire the people of Bharatvash. So then all the monkeys, they have huge seva now. They have to supply all the stones. And there's two architects or engineers, Nila and Nala. They are like bears, I think, or monkeys. Monkeys, yeah. So the monkeys there, and they're engineering this construction across to Lanka. And then they're writing the stones. And then meanwhile, there's a pastime where Ram goes around the corner and he's curious how the stones can float. So he's throwing a stone into the water and it's sinking.
Yes.
And then Hanuman comes beside him and says, no, you have to write Ram on it and then it'll float. And then Ram realizes, what keeps the stone afloat is his name. So they're all rushing. At this time, Hanuman, he comes to Govardhan, Giriraj Govardhan, and he wants to pick up Govardhan, but he can't. So then he feels, oh, this is a very special mountain. So he circumambulates it 3 times. And then he starts offering prayers to Govardhan. And then he requests, because in those days the mountains could fly, their personalities. So he requests Govardhan to come with him. And then Govardhan wants to hear all the Ram Leela. So Hanuman is sitting there reciting the whole Ram Leela. Govardhan becomes and now Govardhan wants to come. But as Hanuman lifts up Govardhan to bring him to the bridge for Lanka, there's an aerial voice saying, Ram has completed the bridge to Lanka.
Okay.
There's no need for Govardhan to come.
So then he puts him back. Then Govardhan becomes totally lamenting and tells Hanuman, you can't leave now until you've satisfied my mind from this lamentation. So Hanuman says, I must go back and ask Ram what I should do about this. So he goes back and then tells Ram about Govardhan. And then Ram tells Hanuman, you go and tell Govardhan, when I come in my Krishna Leela, I will perform all my pastimes on his back. So when Hanuman comes back, he describes that. Then Govardhan, Giriraj Govardhan becomes satisfied and peaceful. Then Hanuman comes back, and then all the monkey horde, they all cross over into Lanka. And then there's the battle, which lasts for, is it 18 days? I'm not sure how many days the battle lasts. Or months? Yes, you need to find that. How long? There's the battle that starts to take, and this battle, there are so many details in the battle where all of Ravan's sons are coming out, and gradually they're being defeated.
About 10 days.
10 days. 10 days battle. So, but this is a battle like none of the devas in Swagaloka have ever witnessed before or seen. Such a battle that takes place, because they're all using astral weapons, etc. And at one point of the battle, Indrajit, who has great mystical powers, he actually manifests a duplicate form of Sita Devi, and in front of Ram and all the army, he cuts off her head to try and dishearten them. But then Vibhishana, he says, no, this is just a mystical thing. Without Vibhishana, then Ram wouldn't know of course Ram knows everything, but it seems that he wouldn't know these things. And then also there's the pastime of when Ram and Lakshman, they get hit by the arrows of Indrajit again, I think, perhaps. Yes, Indrajit. He's very powerful son of Ravan. And then Hanuman, the doctor, Kaviraj, says, you must get this Sanjeevani herb, and this will bring Ram back to life. Lakshman back to life. Yes. Sorry, yes, just Lakshman. So then Hanuman, he runs to the mountain. He flies to the Himalayas to search for this Sanjeevani herb. Yeah. And he can't recognize it on the mountain. Yeah. So he picks the whole mountain up and he brings the whole mountain to Lanka. And then this doctor, the Kaviraj, immediately can locate the Sanjeevani herbs, and they give the herbs under the nose of Lakshman, and he's revived. His whole strength is revived. So Hanuman is a great hero in this battle. Constantly, sometimes he drops his whole enormous magnified body on the Rakshasas, etc. And sometimes it seems that the Rakshasas are winning, and sometimes it seems the monkeys are winning, just to make it fascinating. And so many details that Valmiki describes and that Tulsidas also describes within this battle. It's the climax, basically. But in the very end, finally, after all of Ravana's sons are being killed, all his soldiers are being killed practically, then Ravana himself comes out. And Ravana is enormous, really super intimidating. And it's described that Ram, he's shooting so many arrows into his chariot. Ram has Indradev's chariot. Indradev has sent the chariot for Ram. And Malati, the chariot driver of Indra, Malati, his name is. He's driving the chariot in a very brilliant way, in circles, so that none of Ravan's missiles can actually catch Ram. And Ram is countering all of Ravan's missiles. And then he's shooting so many arrows into Ravan that he can't make any effect on him. And then he cuts off all the 10 heads of Ravan, and they all spring back again. And he does it again, and they spring back again. He does it many times, chops all the heads off, but the heads cut, because he has such a boon that he can't be defeated like this. And then the big secret, Vibhishan, he comes and whispers in Ram's ear, you can never kill him this way. You have to aim at the pot of nectar in his belly. Within his belly is a pot of nectar that is strengthening all his body. And unless you actually pierce that nectar, you can't kill him. So then I think it's one great personality instructs Ram to use his Brahmastra weapon and to aim at the belly of Ravan, which he does. And this arrow goes straight through the body and into the earth out the other side. And at that time, Ravan gives up his life. And all his wives come, and there's great lamenting. And at this time, Vibhishan, he actually expresses such great affection for his son. He always wanted the best for his son. And but still, his brother, his brother, he didn't correct me, his brother. And anyway, then his last rites are done. And then I think it's Hanuman goes into Lanka and tells Sita Devi, your Ram. Sita Devi is just there. She hasn't heard anything about the news from the battle. And all of a sudden, Hanuman appears and tells her, now you can. Actually, I don't think it's Hanuman. I think it's someone else, maybe. Maybe it's Vibhishan again, comes into the path. Because Vibhishan, meanwhile, has been anointed the king of Lanka. Yeah. Because he helps them in the beginning when they're even in Kanyakumar. He helps the monkeys. So Ram coronates him as the king. And then I think it's Vibhishwan. Ram.
It was Hanuman Gurudev.
It was Hanuman. Hanuman comes and finds Sita Devi in a really distraught condition. And he tells her that your Ram has defeated all the demons and killed Ravan. She becomes overjoyed. She wants to go straight away. But then she's requested by Vibhishan comes and says, no, Ram wants you to actually put on, be bathed by all my maidservants and be properly dressed in all your queenly costume, beautifully. And then you come to me in a palanquin. So Sita Devi, she's a little bit surprised by that, like it's a downplay. She wants to just rush into the arms of her husband. But Ram is requesting like that. And then so Sita Devi, she was going, and then Vibhishan said, this is the desire of Ram. Mm-hmm. So then Sita Devi, she has to agree, and she becomes bathed, decorated, all her hair, everything becomes restored. She's actually being given on her journey by one great rishi lady in the forest a dress that will keep her body in complete strength the whole time. So she has that ornament on. So there are so many details. If you sit down to read the Valmiki Ramayana, I think it will take you like 10, 12 days if you just read all the time. So then Sita Devi comes into the assembly of all the monkeys and all these different personalities that are there. Everyone is there. Meanwhile, just before this, Indradev came and offered great respects to Ram and said, how can he serve Ram now? And Ram requests him, you bring back to life all the wounded and killed monkeys. Even if they had their limbs chopped off, you bring them all back to life. So Indradev said this will be very difficult, but he'll do it. And he brings all the monkeys back to life. So when all the monkeys are brought back to life, and then they all are a huge assembly of monkeys, then Sita Devi comes. Sita Devi, first of all, she comes in a palanquin. Then Ram sends a message, no, tell her to get down from the palanquin so everyone can have her darshan because she's so beautiful. So Sita Devi, she's again a bit surprised by this because it's becoming a little bit impersonal because Ram has come into his king position, his full Maryad position now. He's come out of the husband consciousness and he's come into that person who is establishing Maryad on the planet. So Sita, she walks towards him and then Ram checks her and says, you have been in the house of another man for a whole year. You're not fit to come back to Ayodhya in this condition. This is like when everything breaks. This is when everything really snaps. Because Sita Devi now, she's totally heartbroken. Why is my husband speaking such harsh words to me? Doesn't he know my heart? So then Sita Devi, because now Ram has said to her, you can go and live anywhere. I don't want you back. You can go wherever you like. You're free. And then Sita Devi, at that time, she says to Lakshman, you build a pyre. I'm going to leave my body in front of you. I have no other choice except this. My love for Ram is so extreme. So then Ram nods and agrees. Lakshman should make a pyre. Lakshman has to do all these unsavory things, which is why he doesn't want to come back as the younger brother of Krishna again. That's why he becomes as Balaram in the next incarnation. So Lakshman, he builds a funeral pyre and a fire, and Sita, all the demigods, all the devas, everybody is witnessing the courage of Sita. And she says, if I have ever even thought about another man in my dreams, then Agni Dev, you protect me. Now, meanwhile, Agni Dev had taken the original Sita. So Sita Devi at that time, she walks fearlessly into the depth of this huge fire, this raging fire. And then it's described how Agni Dev, he carries Sita out, the full Sita, the real Sita, out of the fire. And at that time, Ram's whole mentality changes and he becomes like the attached husband all of a sudden. All his Maryad, because now the criticism of my wife cannot be made because she's walked into the fire. The whole world has witnessed her purity. So now no envy or no slight can ever come because she's proven her chastity in front of the world. So now he lets his emperor mood down and he welcomes Sita. So saying he's weeping, saying how much he's missed her like that. And Sita, she's, okay, she kind of like goes with it. And then there's a whole beautiful reunion. And then the Vimana that Ravana had stolen from Kubera, the Pushpaka, Vimana, becomes available. And all the monkeys, as well as Sita and Ram and Lakshman, they all make their way back to Ayodhya. And this is exactly today when they arrive in Ayodhya. And meanwhile, Bharat, he's ready to practically give up his life unless, because he tells Ram, if you don't come back after 14 years, I will enter the fire. So Bharat is ready to do that. It's filled with noble characteristics, and their natures are so powerful. And then Ram, he sees Bharat and embrace. There's such a wonderful reunion between Bharat and Ram, and then Ram becomes coronated, and all the Varnas are all invited to the coronation. All their wives, that's Pushpaka, it stops at Kishkinda and picks up all the monkey wives and takes them all back too, and they're all given glorious costumes and everything. His reciprocation with all the monkeys is extraordinary. This is all described by Valmiki at great length in whole chapters. These descriptions are there. And then I'm sure if there's any pundits watching, they'll be saying all the different details that I'm missing out. But our time actually now has concluded. But Ram and Sita come back to Lanka, Ayodhya, and finally at the very end, then again Ram banishes Sita because he hears someone gossiping in the town, a washerman, a low-class man that's, chastising his wife. I'm not like Ram, will accept my wife back after you've been in another man's house. So Ram, because of providence, hears this and says that she has to actually go. And again, she has to go to the place of Valmiki. And she's pregnant at the time with her two sons, Lava and Kush. And then later on, Ram wants to perform a yagya, but Vashishta Rishi says you have to have your wife. And then Ram comes up with an idea, I'll make the murtis of Sita Devi. So actually there's thousands of murtis because it goes on for thousands of years that he's performing every year, a yagya. And then in one such yagya, Lava and Kush come and they sing the whole Ramayana that Valmiki has taught them. And it just melts everyone to the ground. And then they see their mother in a murti form on the stage, and they go back and tell their mother. Their mother doesn't say anything. But then when Ram finds out that these are actually my two sons, then he invites Sita Devi back at the very end. And then what happens at the very end? Sita Devi comes in, and again Ram is still challenging her. And Sita Devi, I can't remember the exact sentence at the very end, but at the end, Sita Devi is again challenged by Ram, and Sita Devi by this time's had enough, and she calls on Mother Earth, where she originated from, and said, if I'm chaste, if I'm always 100% dedicated to my husband, you please open and let me enter. And Mother Earth opens, and a throne comes out of the earth, and she climbs on that throne, and again it goes in. And Ram becomes furious and takes up his bow, and he wants to actually chastise Prithivi. But then Vashishta Rishi is saying, no, your pastimes have actually wound up now, and this is the end of the pastimes. But then it's for another 1,000 years or so that goes on when Ram is performing the different yagyas after that, because they have very long age and so on. So that's part of the story of the Ramayana. I think I've touched on most of the highlights, and everyone else can fill in the details along the way, but it's a long, incredible pastime. So I feel I'm very fortunate today to have an opportunity to speak this at length. And I hope that the devotees became inspired in their service to Lord Rama and their appreciation of Maryad, of Dharma, because this is the principal current in Valmiki and Tulsidas's Ramayans, this current of Maryad, of worship and honor. So Lord Ramacandra ki jai, Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai, Gold Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. So we'll just chant 3 Hare Krishnas just to close the door. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Ram Sita Lakshman Hanuman ki jai, Ramayan ki jai, Ramacandra ki jai. Ram Navami ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhuvevacha, Patitanam Pavnibhyo Vaishnave Namo Namaha.